Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest, Chapter 92. When we last left our heroes, Celine had just killed Georg underfoot, and she decided to take control of Diabolos. That actually, she wants to end the sort of five-way deadlock the dragon gods have been in for the past 400 years, and lead to an age without dragons. And she realizes, after fighting Suzaku, that humans are the extra strength she needs to actually win this deadlock, especially with Merphobia and Alderaan out of the picture. So her sheer strength forces the rest of Diabolos to comply, and they decide to make their first order of business killing Elefseria. Meanwhile, back in Dramil, Team Natsu decides to leave Dramil to not get too attached to the guild being around, but they don't know where to go. So they decide to also go back to Elefseria for some leads. I'm sure nothing bad will happen there. So yeah, let's jump right on into Chapter 92, The Great Labyrinth. And our picture here is of Juvia with her giant poster and plushies of Grey around. Nothing melts ice like burning hot love. Chapter 92, The Great Labyrinth. And so we open with a bit of a recap on Magia Dragon. The Wizard Guild Magia Dragon. That was a big narrator voice. This is not really a narrator bit. That was our starting point on the southern part of Giltena, the first and oldest wizard guild in the world. Apparently, over 100 years ago, it was founded to unite and protect wizards against persecution. And we see these graves scattered about of a destroyed town. We still haven't really gotten much of any context as to why Elefseria founded the guild. We had that prologue way back in Chapter 1, if I recall correctly, of Elefseria and all of this destruction. Yeah. Back in 633, burning at the stake, and just bodies everywhere. But that's really all the context we get for Magia Dragon. I'm wondering if a return to Elefseria means we'll actually get some of that context. Who knows? Anyways, founded to unite and protect wizards against persecution. As time passed, wizard guilds of all kinds started appearing all over the world. That includes us, Fairy Tale. The founder of Magia Dragon, Elefseria, lived at the guild all by himself. He entrusted us with a 100 years quest. But we came back to Magia Dragon to give him a report on our progress. So that brings us back up to the present day, a bit of a recap. It has been over 3 real-world years since we saw Elefseria. And Lucy looks around. As usual, the ether nano is really thick here. And Wendy chimes in, it looks just like snow. And Gray asks, come to think of it, what does that old guy usually do anyway? And Urza chimes in, good question. He has a surprisingly slovenly lifestyle. But Natsu just charges right on in, yo, it's been a while. And we see Elefseria standing in front of the 5 Dragon God mural. Doesn't turn to look at them. Happy looks at him kind of questioningly. And Elefseria is just silent still. Gray presses, what's wrong, old man? And Lucy chimes in, are you not feeling well? But then he tells them, look here. This is a tablet modeled after the 5 dragon gods. The water dragon god Merphobia and the wood dragon god Alderaan have been sealed. So that's kind of, he's not really saying hi. He's just getting right into work. But we do see which ones are Merphobia and Alderaan on the tablet, which we might have seen before. Anyway, Urza presses, you know about that? And Wendy asks, didn't you know through this tablet? And Elefseria just still stares at the wall. For the first time in 100 years, those who have defeated any of the 5 dragon gods have appeared. 2 dragons at that. And Happy's sort of smug there. It's just like we said, you could leave it to us. And Carla presses, did we say that? And Lucy goes on, to tell you the truth, Merphobia turned out to be a good guy? And Urza, and we only defeated Alderaan with the combined efforts of our guilds. But Elefseria then finally turns around. No matter the reason, 2 dragons have been sealed. That is a praiseworthy achievement. I knew I could depend on you. He smiles back at them. And then we see a feast. They're just sort of chowing down. At last, Elefseria shows them some hospitality, but they apparently told him about the Selene arc, because Elefseria presses, "I see. So then, you only managed to drive Selene away, but not to Snaps?" "No! The one who drove her away was that stupid sword samurai." And Urza gets mad. "That infuriating samurai. He was powerful beyond reason." And Elefseria questions, "Samurai?" And Gray explains, "He was from this guild called Diabolos." And Elefseria recognizes him. "Suzaku?" And Wendy reacts, "You know him?" "Well, it is one of Giltina's current wizard guilds, that Diabolos." And Lucy reacts, "Whoa, I had no idea those guys had such a famous guild." And Happy presses, "Are they a dark guild?" But Elefseria counters, "No. Diabolos is a fully fledged official guild. While it's true that Master George's behavior is deplorable, their jobs have not violated any laws either." But Carla goes on, "But it's strange. They act as though hunting dragons is their job. A guild for hunting Giltina's dragons. Could it be a guild that exists to accomplish this 100 years quest?" And Elefseria doesn't answer, but has a sort of solemn look. And Wendy kind of puts the pieces together. "That's true. You didn't request Diabolos with the 100 years quest, did you?" And Elefseria kind of ashamedly responds, "I did. It was several years ago, that George. But Diabolos didn't exist back then." And Gray presses, "What do you mean?" "Diabolos was a guild created in the wake of the 100 years quest. George killed the surviving dragons, except the 5 dragon gods, and consumed their flesh. Eventually, he came to be known as a dragon eater." So there's an interesting bit of word choice there, in that he says that George killed, I guess not, my first instinct when reading that line is all the surviving dragons, and then ate their flesh, and then became known as a dragon eater. But that doesn't make sense, because clearly all of his disciples have ate dragon flesh, so he could not have eaten all of them before dragon eaters became a thing. I don't know. Let's just keep going. "It was then that people began to gather around him, and thus the wizard guild Diabolos was born." And so we see, a lot of the Diabolos members that we've seen. I'm trying to see if there's any members we've not seen. I can see Mad Mole and Scullion and Wraith and Kiria, Suzaku, and Nabal, I think. But then there's these two on the end behind Wraith. One in like a top hat, and one is a woman with like a crown. I think they might be new. They might be more of those Dark Dragon Slayers. Either way, apparently there were still plenty of dragons by the time George had gotten this reputation, because it was only then, after he had become a dragon eater, that he amassed his followers. But anyway, continuing on, Gray asks, "So that's how they know about the 5 dragon gods?" And Lucy presses, "But doesn't that go against not telling anyone the details of the 100 years quest?" And Elefseria tells them, "Indeed it does. Thus the request was annulled and the rights were passed to another guild." And then Urza presses, "In that case, isn't it illegal for him to go after the 5 dragon gods?" "Yes, that's what concerns me. At present, the official rights belong to you. However, the real intention is that the client can be anyone who could fulfill the request. It pains me to tell you this, but if it's to steal the 5 dragon gods, I've decided to leave Diabolos alone in this matter." So I want to pause for a minute on that again, because there's just something here. It feels like all the pieces, like when you have the pieces of a puzzle and they can almost fit, but there's something that's missing and you can't quite tell what. Part of it is there's something about guild law that's bothering me. First of all, so Elefseria is okay with Diabolos breaking the law about, not going after quests that are with other guilds. But that doesn't mean that the government of Giltena should be. Like, there's no reason that, like, the fact that they are breaking the law should make them a dark guild, doesn't it? Isn't that how dark guilds work? Or am I misremembering something from hundreds of chapters ago, back when dark guilds were relevant? I don't know. Either way, the group is relatively unhappy at this. What the hell, man? Lucy presses, Isn't that a double standard? And Gray, you're looking down on us. But Urza stops them. Calm down. If that's how our client feels, then we must show our understanding. And Wendy reacts, Urza-san? There's no helping that our goal of stealing calamitous dragons is the same as theirs. But if they oppose our guild, then that's a different story. I will not tolerate anyone who dares to threaten my allies. There we're seeing... It kind of reminds me of Suzaku, back during the I don't know if we're still in the Selene arc, but like the Elentier part of the Selene arc. How, Suzaku acknowledged they were on the same side, but they were enemies of Diabolos, and therefore he must fight them. Urza's doing basically the same thing. We may have the same goal, but they are enemies of Fairy Tail, and if they try to fight us, we will stop them. And Natsu cheers, you said it! Lucy, if they get in our way again, and Gray picks up, we'll kick their asses this time. And Elefseria is sort of like shaking. You kids, you do know the magic world has an inter-guild conflict ban treaty, right? But again, Diabolos is kind of fudging the law here. So I feel like at that point, Diabolos is the one that started it. It's like the Phantom Lord. They started that war, and so Fairy Tail had like some legal wiggle room to fight back, right? But Urza then takes on that exact complaint. If you're going to bring that up, shouldn't you be punishing Diabolos for starting the conflict in the first place? And Wendy tells her, Urza-san, please calm down. And Elefseria, visibly deflates. You are quite right. And then he shrinks down and pops up on Lucy's boobs. I forgot that he did that. Kya! She, panics. And Natsu tries to punch the mini Elefseria and gets his hand right in Lucy's chest. You jerk! Where do you think you're slipping in between? And Lucy snaps at him. Where do you think you're slipping in between, Natsu? And Elefseria, I completely forgotten this part of Elefseria because it's been so long since we've seen him. I forgot he was a creep. But anyway, Gray just goes on. We get what you're saying, old. Just old. We just want you to get what we're saying. And Elefseria then just says, I'm going to turn a blind eye to that. And then he flips to the side. They should just get along. And then the clock rings. And Elefseria takes note of that. Oh my. Is it that time already? Hikage should be coming back any moment now. I think this is Lucy who asks, Hikage? Living alone is difficult for a man at my age. He's someone who looks after my surroundings for me. Right now he went out shopping for me, but he always comes back at this hour. I'd like to introduce him to you. This is almost certainly a Diabolos member. I don't know which one or who, especially now that Selene has made their mission be kill Diabolos. But something gets thrown in there. Oh no, it's a little bird thing. Emergency! Emergency! And Elefseria notes, oh, Hikage, I just got your report. Lucy reacts, a crow? It talks? Happy is shocked at that. Okay, Happy. The crow spins around. Emergency! Emergency! Elefseria-sama, this is real bad. There's intruders in the Great Labyrinth. There's our title. And Elefseria just freezes to his core. Time for him to sort of regret not going after Diabolos in the past. Wendy questions, Great Labyrinth? And Natsu asks, what's that? And Hikage then looks at the group. Oh, you have guests? Allow me to introduce myself. I am known as Hikage, the Traveling Crow. I met Elefseria while traveling east to west in search of money 5 years ago. But Elefseria stops. Hikage, now is not the time for reminiscence. Who in the world is in the Great Labyrinth? And Hikage kind of pauses before answering. It's Diabolos. And yeah, Fairy Tail kind of freezes. What's more, the Dark Dragon Knights are with them. They're practically at full power. And we see our main Diabolos trio just at the entrance of this labyrinth. Skullion presses. The Moon Dragon God desires Elefseria, does she not? And Manmol responds, there's no mistaking it, Cha. And Kiria just glares at the opening. But first things first. Speaking of our mysterious silhouettes from earlier in the chapter, here they are. Two of the four Dark Dragon Knights, along with this little kid who's one of them too. They are, our top hat man is Kirin the Yellow Dragon, who has this coffin on his back. I wonder if he's similar in some way to Wraith. Seems like whatever we need is in the Great Labyrinth. And then we have Haku, the white tiger dragon, who's this little kid with like a bell, like a cat, is sort of her vibe. Well, this is our first job from the new master, so let's give it our best. And then the woman from the silhouette is Misaki. Children are so quick to adapt, aren't they? And of course, Suzaku, who chimes in, agreed. But then Kirin... Oh, so we have a translator note. Each of the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights symbolizes one of the 4 beasts of Chinese mythology. The Azure Dragon, the Vermilion Bird, the White Tiger, and the Yellow Dragon. A 5th beast replacing the more widely known Black Tortoise here. Okay. So that's an interesting little bit. Anyway, we see Kirin smile. I can get behind Celine's goal. Beat the 5 dragon gods and make a world of humans. Doesn't that sound cool? Doesn't that sound good? And Haku just kind of ignores that. Our master's a dragon! How cool is that? Misaki answers, well, that's not so bad, I suppose. But Suzaku, of course, is the least on board with Celine's rise to power. But then we come back to Fairy Tail as Ursa questions, what is this Great Labyrinth? And why is Diabolos here? But Elefseria freezes. This is bad. Very bad. And Hikage just goes back to what he was doing. Emergency! Emergency! That is where the 6th of the 5 dragon gods slumbers. Okay, not to be pedantic here, but if you have 6 dragon gods, they're not the 5 dragon gods anymore. I mean, maybe that's like some part of Elefseria is sealed there if he's the 6th. I don't know. This feels like really, really random. But whatever, let's roll with it. Random is not always a bad thing. I've seen worse random setups, like anything Ravemaster did with the Dragon Race. That's my little Ravemaster dig there. Anyway, let's look at this chapter because there's a lot here. There's a lot. It's a fun time. There's not that much new content, or not much to really dig into. It kind of gets a little lost in the intricacies of guild law, which, okay, I'm not really here for the intricacies of guild law. I feel like there's a reason that was, big for Phantom Lord, and then was never mentioned again. It's not super interesting, the Interguild Ban Conflict Treaty. But I do like the sort of parallel I called out earlier with Urza and Suzaku, how they're both kind of in the same place, how, they're... they have their mission, but caring about the members of their guild overrides that. That's a good bit for me. I'm down with that. But then, yeah, we have Hikage showing up. Again, there's not a whole lot to the first 2/3. It's not just, working out things we already kind of knew. It's not a super... Either working out things we already kind of knew, or information that's just not that big a deal, especially with, George dead. It's not really important that George is the one who got the 100 Years quest, and then he lost it when he sort of involved other people on it. That doesn't really matter anymore, especially since George is now a bloodstain on Celine's foot. But then the plot kicks in only for the last quarter, with the reveal that Diabolos is at this Great Labyrinth. Specifically, the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. The biggest thing this chapter does is introduce us to the other 3 Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, Kirin, Haku, and Misaki. Not a whole lot to say about them, given that they haven't done anything yet. Misaki looks like the most boring. There's not a whole lot. She's in some kind of, I don't know, maybe naval uniform? I don't know. Kirin, I like the coffin. I don't know, I'm interested. I like the top hat. He's the one that's most interesting to me. And then Haku's just sort of, she's a tiger thing, I guess. I'm sure they'll be more interesting as we go on, and we actually spend more than 2 panels with them. But I'm excited to see them as we move into this next arc, or Celine arc part 2. I don't really know. But then we end with the weird-ass reveal that there is a 6th member of the 5 dragon gods, because words mean nothing anymore. So yeah, that's that. There's another... I'm curious how that's going to play out, but also kind of okay, now we're just sort of going on, aren't we, Mashima? I'm not super mad about that, if I'm being honest. I'm playing it up a little bit, but it's a little... we don't need to be doing this. We don't need another 5 dragon god. I don't know. I'm reserving all judgment for really anything in this chapter until we see how it plays out, because really all of this chapter is just set up for the next arc. It's a bit of too little, too late backstory for Georg, and then setting up this battle in the Great Labyrinth with the Dark Dragon Knights and probably the rest of Diabolos if Team Scullion is there. And then yeah, it's the 6th 5 Dragon God. So we'll see what that all is about next time. But for now, it's a fun enough chapter, nothing too big, just kind of fine. But yeah, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes it happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!